Did you know that some of the world's most breathtaking landscapes are also among its deadliest? Where a single misstep can end a life, where ancient forces still claim victims, and where nature's beauty conceals dangers that have puzzled scientists for centuries? China's vast wilderness holds secrets that go far beyond postcard-perfect scenery. These are places where the ground itself can swallow you whole, where temperatures plunge to -40 degrees in minutes, where electronic devices mysteriously fail, and where people vanish without explanation. Today, I'll reveal the 15 most dangerous natural wonders in China, locations where geological violence, extreme weather, and unexplained phenomena converge to create landscapes as deadly as they are magnificent. From ancient mountains where wooden planks suspended over 1,000-foot drops are the only path forward, to forbidden valleys where compasses spin wildly and GPS signals vanish into thin air, each destination has claimed lives while captivating hearts. Stay to the end, because number 1 is a high-altitude wilderness so hostile that it's claimed more lives than any climbing expedition in Asia. A place where the air itself becomes your enemy, and dozens of people have mysteriously disappeared, their bodies never recovered. Let's begin. Number 15. Mount Hua, the plank path of death. Imagine standing on a wooden plank, barely 12 inches wide, bolted into the side of a vertical cliff 7,000 feet above the valley floor. No room for error. No second chances. Just 3 rusty chains, your trembling hands, and the howling wind that wants to rip you away from the mountain. Mount Hua's granite peaks thrust 70, 80, 100 feet into the sky like stone fingers reaching for heaven. The famous plank walk clings to the southern cliff face. Wooden boards secured by iron stakes driven into rock cracks by monks over 1,300 years ago. Below, nothing but empty air and a drop that would take 6 full seconds to fall. The stakes were driven into natural fissures with such precision that thermal expansion actually tightens their hold rather than loosening it, engineering that modern experts still study in awe. For 2,000 years, Taoist monks made this terrifying journey to reach summit temples where they believed heaven and earth touched. The path wasn't built for tourism. It was constructed as a spiritual test, where only those who conquered their fear of death could achieve enlightenment. The exact death toll is unknown. Chinese authorities stopped publishing statistics decades ago, but unofficial estimates suggest dozens have fallen since modern tourism began. In 2012, safety harnesses finally became mandatory, but even today, people freeze in terror halfway across, unable to move forward or back. Mount Hua isn't just a mountain. It's a testament to the human need to test ourselves against forces greater than we are. A place where beauty and terror are separated by 12 inches of weathered wood. Number 14. Stone Forest, the Petrified Kingdom. Imagine a forest frozen in time, but instead of trees, limestone pillars thrust toward the sky like the petrified remains of an ancient civilization, their surfaces etched with the memory of oceans that vanished 270 million years ago. The Shilin Stone Forest covers 140 square miles of surreal geological sculpture. Formations rise from 33 feet to 131 feet tall, creating natural mazes where sunlight barely penetrates. Each pillar has been carved by 200 million years of erosion, wind, rain, and chemical weathering sculpting calcium carbonate into shapes resembling towers, blades, and impossibly human figures. During the Permian period, this region lay beneath a tropical sea, where marine organisms accumulated in thick layers that compressed into limestone. When tectonic uplift raised this ancient seabed thousands of feet into the air, erosion began its patient work. rainwater slowly dissolving rock, leaving only resistant pillars standing. Local Sani legends tell of Princess Ashima, who fled an arranged marriage. The lovers prayed to the gods for protection. The gods answered, but their mercy was terrible, transforming the entire kingdom into stone, freezing everyone in place for eternity. What few realize is how genuinely dangerous the stone forest can be. The maze-like structure has caused numerous disappearances. In 2006, a French tourist wandered off marked paths and wasn't found for 3 days, severely dehydrated and disoriented, insisting he'd been walking in circles despite moving in what felt like a straight line. The stone forest is more than geology. It's a labyrinth that proves how easily humans lose our way when nature strips away our navigational advantages. Number 13. Hukou Waterfall, where the Yellow River roars. Stand at the edge of this thundering cascade and feel the ground shake. This is where China's Mother River, carrying 1.6 billion tons of sediment every year, narrows from 1,000 feet wide to just 65 feet and plunges into a gorge with geological fury. During flood season, the waterfall becomes a churning maelstrom 98 feet wide and 66 feet tall. The river doesn't fall gracefully. It explodes downward in chaotic torrents of yellow-brown water thick as paint. The color from loess soil eroded from upstream plateaus. Water accelerates to over 30 miles per hour, compressed into a concentrated jet that creates permanent mist clouds rising 200 feet, refracting sunlight into suspended rainbows. The sediment load acts like liquid sandpaper, billions of particles grinding away bedrock with relentless efficiency. During peak flow, the waterfall carries 34,000 cubic meters of water per second, enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool every 15 seconds. In Chinese mythology, Hukou is where Yu the Great proved his divine mandate around 2200 BCE by controlling catastrophic floods that threatened civilization. According to legend, Yu struck the gorge with a magical axe, splitting rock and creating channels that allowed floodwaters to drain safely. Every year, despite warnings, tourists edge too close to the churning water. In 2018, a man climbed over the safety rail to pose for a photograph. He slipped, fell into the current, and was swept over the falls. His body was found 3 miles downstream 2 days later. Hukou Waterfall is Earth's patient sculptor, demonstrating that the line between witnessing power and being consumed by it is thinner than spray-soaked stone. Number 12. Leshan Giant Buddha, the Stone Guardian. Carved directly into a sandstone cliff over 1,200 years ago, this colossal figure stands 233 feet tall, taller than the Statue of Liberty, with shoulders 92 feet wide and feet so large that 36 people can sit on one instep. The Buddha sits at the confluence of 3 rivers in Sichuan province, facing turbulent waters where boats once capsized with tragic regularity. Hidden within the statue is an intricate drainage system, channels carved behind the ears, through the hair buns, in the arms and chest, designed to redirect rainwater and prevent erosion. This system has protected the statue for 13 centuries and remains functional today. Modern engineers analyzing the Buddha with laser scanning discovered that the drainage channels use principles of fluid dynamics that wouldn't be formally described until the 17th century, suggesting knowledge far beyond the medieval period. Construction began in 713 CE under monk Hai Tong, who believed a massive Buddha would calm the waters through spiritual intervention. When a corrupt governor demanded money, Hai Tong gouged out his own eyes, declaring, "You may take my eyes, but you cannot take my vision." Shamed, the governor retreated. Hai Tong died before completion, disciples finished the project 90 years later. After the Buddha's completion, boat accidents decreased dramatically. Skeptics note that millions of tons of stone chiseled during carving were dumped into the river, altering water flow. But for the faithful, the Buddha's power is real. The statue survived the devastating 2008 Wenchuan earthquake with no structural damage, while modern buildings collapsed for miles around. The Leshan giant Buddha proves that human determination can reshape mountains and that the greatest monuments are built not for glory, but for protection. Number 11. Zhangjiajie, the Avatar Mountains. The floating mountains in James Cameron's Avatar weren't pure fantasy. They were based on a real place where sandstone pillars tower over 3,000 feet into the air, rising from mist-filled valleys like stone skyscrapers built by tectonic forces millions of years before humans existed. Zhangjiajie National Forest Park contains over 3,000 quartzite sandstone pillars, some reaching heights of 660 feet. They appear impossibly slender, pillars 30 feet wide supporting vertical masses 10 times their width in height. 380 million years ago, this region was a shallow sea, where sand accumulated in layers hundreds of meters thick, eventually compressing into sandstone. When tectonic activity pushed this ancient seabed upward, erosion began widening vertical fractures. Over millions of years, weaker sections eroded away, leaving only resistant pillars. The sandstone contains high percentages of quartz, allowing these impossibly slender structures to remain stable. The park now includes the world's longest glass bridge, spanning 1,410 feet across a canyon, suspended 980 feet above ground. Walking across is terrifying. Transparent panels create the illusion of walking on air, and on windy days, the bridge sways noticeably. But here's what few tourists realize. People die here. The dramatic topography that makes Zhangjiajie beautiful also makes it deadly. In 2016, a tourist ignored warning signs and climbed over a barrier to take a selfie. The rock crumbled, and he fell 300 feet. Zhangjiajie is nature's architecture at its most ambitious, a reminder that Earth can create structures that dwarf human engineering, and that even paradise has edges where one wrong step means falling into mist that never ends. Number 10. World Devil City, the Howling Wasteland. Imagine walking through hundreds of rock formations shaped like ruined castles and twisted humanoid figures. Weathered stone towers rising from barren desert where wind shrieks through gaps with sounds so eerily human that locals believe they're hearing the cries of trapped souls. World Devil City sprawls across 4 square miles of Yardang landform in Xinjiang province. Wind has sculpted layered sedimentary rock into fantastical shapes. Medieval fortresses with walls and towers, giant mushrooms, creatures frozen mid-movement. Formations rise 60 to 90 feet tall, casting shadows that shift throughout the day. The howling occurs when wind speeds exceed 20 miles per hour. Air flowing through gaps creates resonance effects, the same physics that make bottles whistle. Different gap sizes produce different frequencies, creating acoustic chaos that the human brain pattern matches and often interprets as voices or screams. Uyghur and Kazakh legends tell of a prosperous Silk Road city whose rulers grew corrupt and cruel. The gods sent a warning: 3 days to repent or face divine judgment. When the rulers ignored it, a massive windstorm raged for 40 days, turning every living thing to stone and burying the city. Now the stones cry out when wind passes through them, mourning what they lost. What makes World Devil City genuinely dangerous is its remoteness and extreme climate. Summer temperatures exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Winter temperatures plunge to -20 with deadly wind chill. In 2014, photographers venturing during a dust storm became separated. Two weren't found for 20 hours, severely dehydrated and disoriented. World Devil City demonstrates how wind can be as powerful as water in shaping Earth, and how the line between natural beauty and hostile environment depends entirely on whether you're protected or exposed. Number 9. Xiao Su Ice Valley, where blue ice glows. There's a valley in China where ice glows electric blue, not from artificial lighting, but from a rare optical phenomenon that occurs when ancient compressed ice absorbs all wavelengths of light except the shortest ones, creating colors so intense they look photoshopped even when you're standing directly in front of them. Xiao Su Ice Valley sits at over 14,000 feet elevation on the Tibetan Plateau. Ice formations here, walls 30 to 60 feet tall, pillars like frozen waterfalls, massive blocks the size of houses, glow with otherworldly blue luminescence under sunlight. When snow accumulates to great depths and gets compressed over thousands of years, air bubbles are squeezed out, creating solid ice with few internal boundaries. Ice molecules absorb red and yellow wavelengths preferentially, while allowing blue wavelengths to penetrate deep. The blue light eventually scatters back out, but because red and yellow have been removed, only blue remains. Some ice blocks here are over 10,000 years old, compressed to such density that scientists compare them to ice formations on Europa and Enceladus, moons with subsurface oceans. Local Tibetan communities call it Shangri-la, the frozen palace of spirits. They believe the blue ice is frozen celestial light, that gods stored their essence here, and that humans who gaze too long risk losing part of their soul to the beauty. The danger is multifaceted. The valley is remote. Reaching it requires multi-day treks at high altitude, where altitude sickness is common. The ice itself is hazardous. Massive blocks become unstable as temperature fluctuations cause internal stress fractures, and collapses can occur without warning. In 2019, a section collapsed during the night, destroying one tent and severely injuring two climate researchers. The remote location meant evacuation took 3 days. One researcher lost fingers to frostbite. Xiao Su Ice Valley is a glimpse of planetary processes, a color so rare it seems invented, and proof that nature creates beauty so extreme it becomes dangerous simply because we're compelled to witness it. Number 8. Shangri-la Gorges, canyons of impossible depth. Imagine standing at the rim of a canyon so deep that if you dropped a stone, you'd wait 6 full seconds before hearing it hit bottom. A vertical mile of empty air, where rivers have cut through Earth's crust with such violence that sunlight never touches the deepest points. The Shangri-la Gorge system contains some of Earth's deepest river-cut canyons. Tiger Leaping Gorge plunges 6,500 feet from rim to river, deeper than the Grand Canyon in places. The Jinsha River roars through the bottom, compressed into a channel sometimes less than 100 feet wide, creating unnavigable rapids. 30 million years ago, the collision between Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates began crumpling Earth's crust, pushing up the Tibetan Plateau. As land rose, rivers suddenly found themselves on steep slopes and accelerated. Increased velocity gave rivers cutting power, allowing them to slice through rock at several millimeters per year, which over 10 million years equals tens of thousands of feet of downcutting. The canyon environment creates bizarre phenomena. Temperature inversions trap moisture, producing low-level clouds that fill the canyon like vapor rivers. Rainbows occur even without rain, as sunlight refracts through dense mist. More unsettling are reports from trekkers about time distortion. Multiple visitors describe hiking what felt like an hour, but checking watches to find 3 or 4 hours had passed. The death toll is difficult to quantify, but estimates suggest dozens have died here since trekking routes opened in the 1990s. In 2004, Korean tourists were caught in a flash flood. 4 were swept into the river and drowned. Their bodies weren't recovered for weeks. Shangri-la Gorges are evidence of Earth's raw power to tear itself apart. Reminders that mountains rise by crushing older mountains, and proof that beauty at this scale requires danger at equal measure. Number 7. Shennongjia, the forest where wild men walk. There's a forest in China where credible witnesses, scientists, park rangers, military personnel, have reported encountering large bipedal creatures covered in reddish-brown hair, standing over 7 feet tall, with footprints 16 inches long and facial features that aren't quite human and aren't quite ape. Shennongjia Nature Reserve covers 3,000 square kilometers of dense forest, much of it pristine and unexplored. The biodiversity is extraordinary. 5,300 plant species and 450 animal species, including endangered giant pandas and golden snub-nosed monkeys. The wild man phenomenon has been documented for centuries. Over 400 sightings have been reported since the 1970s. Physical evidence exists: hair samples that don't match known primates, footprints showing dermal ridges, suggesting genuine biological tissue, and scat samples. In 1976, scientists collected hair samples analyzed by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, who concluded the hair came from an unidentified higher primate. Eyewitness accounts are remarkably consistent. Standing 6.5 to 8 feet tall, covered in reddish-brown hair, walking upright with stooped posture, with faces between human and ape, more intelligent-looking than a gorilla, but not human. Despite thousands of trail cameras deployed throughout the reserve, no clear photographs exist, suggesting either incredibly low population density or an animal with behavioral traits that allow it to avoid camera traps. The danger in Shennongjia isn't from cryptids, it's from the forest itself. Every year, hikers get lost. In 2012, a botany student entered the forest and wasn't found for 4 days. Dehydrated, hypothermic, 6 miles from where she'd entered, reporting complete disorientation. Shennongjia is a reminder that Earth still contains spaces large enough and wild enough to hide secrets, and that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Number 6. Zhagana, the stone city that echoes. Imagine a valley where towering limestone cliffs rise 3,000 feet straight up, arranged in such perfect geometric rows that ancient Chinese texts described it as a fortress built by gods, where sound behaves strangely, echoing back with delay and distortion. Zhagana sits at 11,000 feet elevation on the Tibetan Plateau's eastern edge. The name means Stone Box Mountain. The valley is surrounded on 3 sides by near-vertical limestone cliffs, arranged in parallel formations creating natural ramparts. The acoustic properties are genuinely strange. When you shout, the echo returns not once but multiple times, each repetition slightly distorted. Audio engineers attribute this to complex sound wave interactions between parallel cliff faces. Sound bounces back and forth multiple times. The effect varies by location. At certain spots, sounds repeat indefinitely, fading slowly over 10 to 15 seconds. Local Tibetans have mapped these acoustic zones over generations. Certain locations are designated for prayer because echoes amplify chanting in ways that create meditative rhythms. What's genuinely mysterious is the reported disorientation effect. Multiple visitors describe feeling watched, and a non-trivial number report brief periods of time loss. One documented 2015 case involved a Belgian trekker who entered mid-morning, hiked what he believed was a 2-hour loop, but emerged at dusk, over 7 hours later, with no memory of where he'd been. Researchers speculate about infrasound, low-frequency sound that can cause feelings of unease, dizziness, and time distortion. Wind moving through the peculiar rock formations might generate infrasound at frequencies that affect human cognition. GPS devices frequently show erratic position data. Compasses deviate by 10 to 15 degrees from true north. Zhagana is a landscape where geology creates effects that feel supernatural, where sound and space behave counterintuitively, and where the line between scientific mystery and spiritual experience becomes impossibly thin. Number 5. Yanan Cave, where something unknown walks. There's a cave system in China where footprints 16 inches long appear periodically in soft mud, where electronic devices malfunction without explanation, where visitors report hearing deep guttural vocalizations that don't match any known animal, and where thermal imaging has detected large heat signatures that vanish before they can be filmed. Yanan Cave is accessible only by a 4-hour hike through dense forest. The limestone cave extends for at least 3 miles through connected passages. The footprints, first documented in 1982, measure approximately 16 inches long and 7 inches wide, with 5 distinct toes arranged similar to human feet, but with proportions that don't match. Depth of impressions suggests a creature weighing between 250 and 350 pounds. Dermal ridge patterns visible in some prints confirm they're biological rather than fabricated. Most perplexing, the prints appear deep within the cave system, in areas with no obvious access except through extremely narrow passages. Multiple research teams report cameras, recording devices, and sensors experiencing failures deep within. Batteries drain rapidly. Fully charged devices die within an hour. Thermal imaging cameras have detected large heat signatures on 3 separate occasions, but by the time teams reach the locations, nothing is found. Most unsettling are audio recordings of low-frequency sounds around 80 to 120 hertz, grunting or growling that doesn't match known animals. In 2018, a recording captured what some interpret as a pattern: 3 grunts, pause, 2 grunts, pause, repeat, suggesting intentional signaling. Multiple visitors report intense feelings of being watched, escalating fear responses, and occasionally panic attacks. Whether these psychological effects stem from infrasound, claustrophobia, suggestion, or something genuinely present remains unresolved. Yanan Cave is a threshold between known and unknown, a place where evidence accumulates without providing answers. Number 4. Mount Minya Konka, the secret Everest. Some call it the most beautiful mountain on Earth, a pyramid of ice and rock rising 24,790 feet into the Tibetan sky, with a death rate that surpasses Mount Everest by percentage. Only about 30% of summit attempts succeed, and the mountain has claimed lives in double digits. Mount Minya Konka dominates the horizon in western Sichuan. The peak is a near-perfect pyramid of ice, permanently shrouded in wind-blown snow. The Hukou Glacier extends over 9 miles, one of China's longest at this latitude. The mountain sits at the eastern margin of the Tibetan Plateau, where tectonic collision continues actively. The mountain rises nearly 20,000 feet from valley floor to summit in just 12 miles, one of Earth's greatest vertical rises over such short distance. This extreme relief creates deadly weather. When air masses hit the mountain, they're forced upward, dumping over 10 feet of snow in single storms. The summit is continuously scoured by winds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The climbing history is grim. The first ascent was in 1932. One member died during descent. In 1981, a Japanese expedition successfully summited, but lost 4 members to avalanches. At least 24 climbers have died on Minya Konka, most from avalanches, falls, or altitude sickness. The death rate per attempt is significantly higher than Everest. Perhaps most disturbing are reports of magnetic and electronic anomalies near the summit. Multiple teams have reported compass deviation and GPS malfunctions. Geological surveys identify localized magnetic anomalies in bedrock, concentrations of magnetite that could interfere with magnetic compasses. Mount Minya Konka demonstrates that height and beauty create danger exponentially, that mountains don't care about human ambition, and that some places remain fundamentally hostile to survival despite our best technology. Number 3. Tengchong Volcanic Hot Springs, the Boiling Cauldron. There's a place where the earth itself boils, where groundwater reaches temperatures hot enough to cook meat in minutes, where steam erupts from cracks with enough force to scald skin off bone, and where locals use volcanic heat as a natural pressure cooker. The Tengchong region in Yunnan province sits atop one of China's most active geothermal zones with over 80 natural hot springs. The famous Big Boiling Pot is a cauldron of churning water 12 feet across, where temperatures reach 96.8 degrees Celsius. Steam rises in thick columns. Surrounding rocks are stained in bands of orange, yellow, and rust red, mineral deposits from thousands of years of thermal water evaporation. Tengchong sits where the Indian tectonic plate pushes into the Eurasian plate, creating enormous pressure and friction deep underground, heating rock to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Groundwater seeping through fractures contacts this superheated rock, becomes pressurized, and races back to the surface. Local Dai and Lisu minorities developed methods of placing bamboo tubes filled with rice and vegetables into spring edges, creating natural pressure cookers that steam food to perfection in 15 minutes. But people have died here. In 2009, a tourist leaned over the big boiling pot to photograph. The rock crumbled, and he fell into churning water. By the time rescuers pulled him out 30 seconds later, third-degree burns covered 40% of his body. He died in hospital 3 days later. At 97 degrees, human tissue cooks, proteins denature, cell walls rupture. Falling into the big boiling pot is like falling into soup. Tengchong's volcanic springs remind us that we walk on thin crust above unimaginable heat and pressure, where beauty and death are separated by a single misstep. Number 2. Longmen Grottoes, the cliffs of 10,000 Buddhas. Imagine a cliff face 2/3 of a mile long, where every surface is carved with religious devotion. Over 51,000 Buddha statues, from figures smaller than your hand to colossal images 56 feet tall. Their stone faces gazing across centuries with expressions that shift from serene to sorrowful as light and shadow dance across ancient stone. The Longmen Grottoes stretch along both banks of the Yi River near Luoyang, carved into limestone cliffs between the late 5th and early 9th centuries CE. The main concentration consists of 2,300 caves and niches. Artisans worked from the top down, suspended on bamboo scaffolding using iron chisels to remove stone. The largest statue, the Vairocana Buddha, stands 56 feet tall. Geologists calculate that carving this single figure required removing approximately 800 cubic meters of limestone, work that would have taken 50 skilled carvers working full-time about 4 years. The grottos were commissioned by emperors of the Northern Wei and Tang dynasties as acts of religious merit and political propaganda. Each emperor sought to outdo previous rulers, commissioning larger, more elaborate caves. What makes this place genuinely unsettling is its role as a chronicle of destruction. During the Cultural Revolution in the 1960s, Red Guards attacked with sledgehammers, viewing Buddhist art as feudal superstition. Thousands of statues were beheaded, faces smashed beyond recognition. In the 1920s and 1930s, Western collectors paid locals to chisel valuable pieces from cliffs. Entire sculptural heads were removed and smuggled to Europe and America. Longmen is more than art. It's a meditation on impermanence, a reminder that even stone crumbles, that beauty survives through collective effort, and that the greatest works are those created not for individual glory, but for something larger than the self. Number 1. Qinghai Hoh Xil, the Forbidden Plateau where hallucinations become real. Welcome to the most inhospitable wilderness in China, a high-altitude desert where temperatures plunge to -40 degrees Fahrenheit, where the air contains barely half the oxygen of sea level, where navigation equipment fails mysteriously, where experienced travelers lose all sense of direction and wander in circles until exposure kills them, and where dozens of people have vanished without trace over the past 50 years. Qinghai Hoh Xil sprawls across over 17,000 square miles in the northern Tibetan Plateau, averaging elevations above 14,000 feet. This is cold desert, frozen grassland, gravel plains, and salt flats, punctuated by glacial lakes. The landscape has an alien quality. Vast expanses of nothing but gravel and scrub, mountains visible in every direction, but seemingly unreachable. Weather shifts with terrifying speed. Clear skies become blizzards within 30 minutes. The danger begins with altitude. At 14,000 feet, barometric pressure is 60% of sea level. Each breath delivers substantially less oxygen. Without acclimatization, altitude sickness is guaranteed. Headache, nausea, dizziness, impaired judgment. Low oxygen affects cognition. Reaction time slows by 40%, decision-making deteriorates, and hallucinations become increasingly common. The cold is lethal. Wind chill can push effective temperatures to -60 degrees Celsius. At these temperatures, unprotected skin freezes in under 5 minutes. Hypothermia can kill in under 2 hours. Hoh Xil has earned the nickname Bermuda Triangle of the Highlands due to disappearances. Multiple cases involve experienced travelers who abandoned vehicles and wandered into wilderness, their bodies found days or weeks later, miles from any road, sometimes partially undressed despite freezing conditions. A phenomenon called paradoxical undressing, where hypothermic individuals feel hot due to brain malfunction and remove protective clothing. In 2003, a geological survey team of 4 entered Hoh Xil. 2 team members disappeared overnight from camp. Search teams found them 2 days later, 12 miles away, both dead from exposure. Recovered journal entries indicated they believed they were being called by something. Hallucinations are common and well documented. Low oxygen causes the brain to fill in gaps in sensory input with fabricated information. Travelers report seeing buildings on the horizon that don't exist, hearing voices calling their names, seeing companions who aren't there, or experiencing complete time distortion. In 2011, a survivor described hiking what felt like 3 hours, but was actually 11 hours, convinced he was following a clear trail that searchers confirmed didn't exist. GPS units show impossible position jumps. Compasses spin without settling. Radios experience interference. The Chinese government has restricted access, designating it a nature reserve with limited tourism. Despite precautions, people die here regularly. Estimates suggest several deaths per year. Hoh Xil proves that Earth contains regions fundamentally incompatible with human survival, and that beauty and hostility can occupy the same space so completely that the boundary between wonder and death disappears entirely, leaving only frozen silence and unanswered questions. From wooden planks suspended over thousand-foot drops to plateaus where the air itself becomes lethal, these 15 locations prove that China's most breathtaking landscapes are also its most dangerous. They remind us that nature doesn't compromise, that beauty and danger are often inseparable, that the forces that create magnificent scenery are the same forces that can kill without warning. These places continue to claim lives not because humans are reckless, but because we're drawn to extremes, compelled to witness beauty, even when wisdom suggests retreat. They stand as testament to Earth's indifference to human survival, to the fact that some places remain fundamentally wild despite our best technology, and to the humbling reality that the planet contains spaces larger, colder, more powerful than anything we can fully control.